honored to be on the dais with these guys. We had a prep call earlier or later last week that was fascinating. I've kind of dived into the idea of fashion tech as it relates to Web3. My background is in DeFi, but there are a lot of commonalities between decentralized finance and fashion tech. And I think hopefully that'll come out. But I just want to throw it over to these guys, have them introduce themselves, maybe give a background about your companies, and maybe briefly how you came into the Web3 space.
Yeah, sure. Thanks everyone for coming. Alex, Webbs, Nason. I guess I'm doxed now. Most people did not know my last name, but that's fine. And I'm now corporate because I work at Puma now, working on all things Web3. We define Web3 really broadly, but my primary focus is everything blockchain related. Prior to that, I had my own boutique agency in the Web3 space, working with early stage crypto companies on go-to-market strategy and traditional brands looking to enter Web3.
I'm stoked to be here. I know you guys all had a break, so hopefully we keep the energy up. Before I get into what we're doing, if at any point in the conversation, I think it's important to say what we're doing is, in my opinion, very leading edge and very interesting. So if anybody has a question at any point, we'll pause the conversation and address that. I think that's really important. My name's David Filar. As introduced, I head up product at Endstate, which is a Boston-based company that does sneakers and apparel that ties digital, physical, and experiential all together. And so, Ian, thank you for wearing our sneakers. Greg is here in the crowd wearing our sneakers. Greg owns 3 of our different drops, so he is arguably one of our best consumers, so I appreciate you. I came from 8 years of corporate footwear design, so outside of NFTs and Web3, but I left a year and a half ago to join Endstate because I was fascinated with what the technology can offer to physical goods. So while my background and education is in physical design, I get really stoked about designing experiences for the customers and what the blockchain can offer in terms of perks and utility, which are words that get thrown out a lot, but nobody's really actioned them until, in my opinion, what Alex and I have been able to do in our different respective companies. So that's a little bit about myself. We can get into it more, but I'm stoked to be here.
Great, awesome. So this is going to be conversational, and to echo what David said, any questions, please just raise a hand, we'll reach out. So I think one of the things that really jumped out to me in speaking to you guys in particular is the level of customer interaction, brand customer interaction. And I think it's been taken to a level never seen before. And I was wondering if each of you could discuss what customer interaction, brand loyalty means to you and your companies, and how Web3 has basically turbocharged that activity. I'll throw it out, whoever wants to start.
Yeah, sure. I'll take that one. I think most brands, especially apparel brands entering the Web3 space, have loyalty and consumer interaction that's the center of why they're doing it. We definitely see NFTs as a way to have a closer, more direct relationship with our consumers. For those consumers that really want to have an elevated experience and get high quality early access to things, we think NFTs are a really good way to distribute those items to our most loyal and eager fans.
Yeah, and for us, the engagement and what we can offer to our customer base is the most important. I mean, the best example that we've been able to exhibit, and I'll call it a proof of work, is we signed Devontae Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. For any football fans, he's their number 2 wide receiver. We signed him last year. We developed a signature sneaker for him. And so really we want to be able to partner and collaborate with artists, athletes, musicians, creators of any kind, and be able to elevate their story. So Devontae was known as the most fashionable guy in the NFL. He was voted that by GQ last year. So being able to partner with somebody like that, bring him his own signature silhouette, I'm actually wearing his sneaker, and basically offer their fans, and for anybody who's from Philadelphia or knows Philadelphia, Phillies fans are nuts. We learned that. And so what was really interesting is we got to offer all these extra perks that were built into kind of the utility of the sneakers. So throughout the season, when Devontae performed on field, if he caught a pass for over 40 yards, we airdropped people a cheesesteak because they're primarily from Philadelphia. It was an Uber Eats gift card for those who did not want a cheesesteak or had dietary restrictions, but it happened 3 separate times during the regular season and once in the postseason. So people got 4 times $15 Uber Eats gift cards throughout the season based on the athlete's performance, right? So that's perk 1. Then we got to host a watch party down in Philadelphia where we got to meet a lot of the sneaker owners. So they got to interact with our brand, they got to learn about us. We got to do some giveaways, whether that was socks or whether it was backpacks or whatever it is, and really just engage ourselves as a brand, which again, doesn't happen that one-to-one relationally that often. And so we were really excited to do that. And really the cherry on top was that anybody who purchased a sneaker got to meet the athlete. So we held a meet and greet. So today you can take X star athlete from any of the legacy brands and you're not gonna meet them. And so we offered that accessibility where people brought their babies to get their jerseys signed and they got their boxes signed, they got football cards signed. You know, so you build in like, we're not telling them to flip anything, right? Like they could do what they want, but being able to offer that access and having the sneaker be that token in is super important to us. All of our products are chipped. So basically your sneaker or your jacket can be, you know, tap a smartphone to it and it'll pull up the record of authenticity and basically be your form to get in.
Yeah, fascinating.
And you see this beyond the apparel industry too, with brands entering the Web3 space. Like Starbucks, their loyalty program is one of the most revered in the world in general loyalty programs. And with their Odyssey NFT-based loyalty program, they're seeing engagement levels that are like blowing away the traditional loyalty programs levels. Like in real life, showing up like butts and seat activations that are really working for them. So it's obviously moving the needle for huge brands.
Wow. Wow. Not to start a debate, but I think as a New England Patriot fan, we could make the argument that the Miami Dolphin fans are a little bit crazier than the Philly fans. At least last Sunday night they were, but I won't go into that. No, but that's fascinating, and that brings up a very interesting point because I went into this and trying to learn about it with a big misconception, and I think this misconception related to Web3 and fashion stems from the old days when a static NFT embedded in a JPEG was the extent of, you know, NFTs related to a brand. They're obviously much more complex now. But based on that model, you had all these people coming out saying, oh my God, the margins are massive. The margins are huge for companies that adopt NFTs. It's like incredible for the company. But then I think, David, it was you on the call that said, well, not really. You do have to pay the athlete and entertainer for his or her time. So
yeah, I mean, so every relationship's structured a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about NFTs is obviously there is a secondary market. There are royalties. Obviously, there's a whole debate about, you know, OpenSea and royalty fees
Right.
and all this other stuff, which we're not going to get into. But you have the initial agreement with them, and some of them are just royalty based. Obviously, like what we do and what we want to partner with these people on is promoting themselves as their brand, right? We are an engine, and we have the expertise between myself and the co-founders. You know, Stephanie Howard, who was here last year, we have over 35 years of, you know, footwear design experience and apparel experience. And so what we're able to do is lean on their brand and their audience and their communities and be able to provide the engine to support and storytell what they want to dictate to their audience and be able to engage with their fan bases that way.
Sure.
And so every deal is structured a little bit differently, and obviously there is a money, like we're not a nonprofit. We do
Right.
charitable drops.
Sure.
Ian was wearing a charity-based sneaker, but like at the end of the day, like there is enough for everybody to play,
Right.
and I think that's what makes it exciting. There's a question too.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
Hey,
So you actually touched
What's
on
your
this
name?
point. I'm Rob.
Rob, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. You actually touched on a point that I was thinking in my head a little bit, that though accessibility to the consumer is awesome in this, I think what's really cool is that it's accessibility on the athlete side as well. because a huge push for like college students being able to make money and kind of market themselves. Because of the digital revolution in that regard, I think the ability that it's not just specific players getting specific shoes or specific apparel. It's like if you want to go out and make your own line, in theory you can do so and be involved and market yourself in that way, which I think is a much bigger construct than the legacy brands in which they pick a certain person for a specific year. Is that kind of where we're headed, or is it's still kind of like, no, we kind of want to pick and choose who's showing off our brand, or is it more like, hey, if you want to be involved, you can be involved?
I'll speak and then I'll let you kind of touch base on it, because Puma also did a really cool collaboration recently, with LaMelo Ball, who's an athlete too. So from our perspective, it's not about just highlighting our brand. Like the legacy brands, a lot of time you'll just see an icon or as many stripes as you want to see or whatever it is. For us, it's their brand, right? So on Devontae's sneaker, you see his logo and you see our logo. They're proportionate to one another. Every situation is different. We want to make sure that we're elevating them, their story, their brand, because it's their audience, right? Like their product has their name on it, right? There should be more meaning behind it, right? Like you're trying to educate your customers on who you are, whether it's a musician or whatever, and then be able to provide all these perks, whether it's meeting you and building that one-to-one relationship. That consumer is more likely, I don't know about anybody else, if I bought an athlete's sneaker and I got to meet them and I got a signed piece of memorabilia, I'm probably going to root for them for the rest of their career, right? Regardless if I'm a Philadelphia fan, I live in Worcester, Massachusetts, right? I'm not a Philadelphia fan, but I'm going to root for Devontae for the rest of my life, right? I'm obviously biased. I work for Endstate, blah, 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 but there is a inherent tie that I think makes it really, really special, and that's why I believe in what we're doing so much. Time just hasn't caught up yet at a mass scale, but I know that this type of work and like us 50 people being in this room talking about this subject matter really matters, because it's going to become mass adopted eventually. Yeah. We're just here today.
Right.
Yeah, I'll add one thing to that. Obviously in crypto, we talk a lot about interoperability, and there definitely is a lot of interoperability unlocked at the technical level, but I think it also enables community interoperability. So the drop that we did with LaMelo Ball, that involves our existing NFT community at Puma. It involves LaMelo's fans that got attracted to it, and we also did it in collaboration with another third NFT community, Gutter Cat Gang. So we attracted all their audience as well. And so now Gutter Cat Gang members are fans of Puma NFTs. Puma NFT people are fans of Gutter Cat Gang and of LaMelo Ball and vice versa. So like community crossover and interoperability is definitely a huge benefit for brands, for sure.
Yeah, that was a great question.
We have two questions now.
Sure. Oh, wait, hold for the mic.
Thank you so much.
You look awesome.
Thanks so much.
You should be on stage with us.
Are those Deion Sanders shades? Are those Deion Sanders, the ones that he gave to the team? Oh, well, forget it.
I'm not gonna dox anything. Anyways, like my main question is, how are you planning to engage, participants, maybe in the voting system while the whole NFT, like DAO style? Because I'm a part of a lot of DAOs, including Boston DAO, Apecoin DAO, and like I'm wondering, like, is there any plans, maybe even like find creators or builders of 3D NFTs to participate in the design, or just customers itself on the voting system? Can you tell me more any of those plans, if there is any?
We definitely take community feedback and incorporate that into our future projects and into our roadmaps. And there's definitely a lot of opportunity to bring holders and fans in even more in the actual creation process. I think a lot of technology, even outside of Web3, like AI, makes that a lot more possible as well, to engage community members in the creation of assets.
From our perspective, I love that idea, right? Like I think we floated it on our Drop 2 sneaker. We worked with 4 individual artists from around the United States to get a one of one, essentially. So they got to design the background of the NFT, and so bringing in different aspects and creators into the project where people could get excited about potentially minting a one of one, right, was really exciting for us. In terms of like voting, we've thought about, you could do design competitions, the whole 9 yards. It's really a matter of finding the right partner and the right release structure around that. It hasn't happened yet, but we've definitely talked about it, and it's definitely on something that we think can be really engaging for people to participate in. I think the one realistic challenge is like everybody thinks they're a designer until it's time to actually design, especially like a sneaker or a jacket or whatever it is. It becomes more challenging, but I think with the right guidance and with the right kind of set of structure, it can definitely happen. But I just don't think it's happened yet. But it's a good question.
Great. Just real quick before we go to the next question. Huge NBA Top Shot fan. I purchase rookie cards primarily. When I purchase that rookie card for the team that I support, LA Lakers, I know not popular, but I'm following that rookie throughout his entire career.
Right.
Between that and fantasy football, you're right. The rooting for these individual players is at the micro level, which is fantastic, I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh.
Howdy.
What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
What's your name?
I'm Ben.
Ben, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I love your pants, Ben.
Thank you. Fashion game, recognized fashion game.
You've always got great questions.
It's a two-parter. So one, I teach at Berklee College of Music, and the first question is, are you doing anything working on fashion with musicians? You know, I think like Lady Gaga is kind of like an iconic fashion source. So is that, I mean, I hear a lot of talk about sports. Is there anything going down the realm of musicians? And two, you talked about the importance of aligning brands. So aligning brand between your brand and the artist brand.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if you think about blockchains in terms of brand and which blockchains you align yourselves with.
Great question.
Do you want to answer or you want me to go?
I will speak to the brand question. I'm not comfortable answering the first one right now. But we definitely look at blockchains and like the brands that they hold for sure. Speaking in general, knowing how like traditional brands in apparel and beyonds look at like the NFT space and which chain to deploy on, I think brand definitely matters when it comes to blockchain. If you look at Polygon, like there's a lot of brand recognition there, and with that comes like a sense of security and safety to larger brands when they decide what chain to deploy on. That makes them feel more comfortable if they see their competitors or other peers of theirs in the space that they're essentially able to outsource due diligence, things like that. So brand definitely matters for chains, yeah.
And I'll answer the first question. So yes, we definitely will share. I'll share this. In the next couple months, there will be a signature sneaker for a musician through Endstate, and so we are really excited. There will be a launch party about it. She is amazing. She is literally the perfect collaborator. She's excited. She's collaborated on the design with our co-founder Stephanie, and the utility and the perks that we can offer from the music side of things. None of this is final, so I know this is being recorded, so hopefully anybody we'll figure that part out later. But like the perks that, like, again, nothing's finalized, so take this with a grain of salt, but like the first one that everybody thinks about is like VIP access backstage. So like that's amazing. Your sneakers, take a smartphone, you can scan it, shows the proof of authenticity, you get behind stage, right? That's amazing, you can cheer for them. They're recording music videos. What if, let's say 5 out of the sneaker holders want to be able to fly down or show up to a behind the scenes music video. That is possible, right? Or a meet and greet, or whatever it is. Your brain can wander off in 50 different directions on like the music aspect, which is what we get excited about. And they usually have extremely loyal fan bases, right? They're like, people like inherently always go back to music, from their childhood, or they speak these lyrics that really are situational based of what I'm going through in this moment and what I'm feeling emotionally. And if you're able to tap into your audience and like resonate a product with that, that's what we get excited about. So yeah, we're definitely entering the music space in the next couple months. So if anybody is interested, be on the lookout for that.
I've just isolated the potential candidates. I'll keep them to myself. But question over here, I think.
Hey, my name is Jesse. The quick question is basically, when you are looking at different artists, different sports figures, Are you seeing a lot more of the Web 2 coming in to this, and this is the gateway to have them have some sort of Web 3 associated with the sneaker, or are you also seeing kind of a Web 3 native that's getting excited about that sports star, that artist? And if so, or like I guess the second follow-up question is, what does onboarding look like for the people that have never owned an NFT, that have never like interacted with this? How are you guys bridging that gap? Thanks.
That's huge, and that's another common denominator between decentralized finance and fashion Web3, this onboarding of customers. So excellent question.
Yeah, I think this again goes back to interoperability of communities. So definitely getting Web3 native people that are existing NFT holders exposed to some of these like Web2 personalities, and also seeing people that were just fans of like LaMelo Ball, like I referred to before, getting interested in Web3 because they're fans of him. And then with that comes, like more challenges or opportunities for easier onboarding processes, which are things like, credit card integration or making it easier to get access to the NFTs without already having a MetaMask. Things like that are definitely things that every brand in this space, I think, is thinking about for sure.
For us, the conversation's obviously shifted over the past couple of years, right? Previously, we've done releases where it was NFT first, and then you redeem the sneaker, and then we ship the sneaker. The bonus side of that is you can make to order, so you know how many you sell up front, and then you don't have to hold inventory or anything like that. So from a sustainability factor, that is a huge play. But in terms of like the conversations with the athlete or the artist, it depends, right? We've had conversations where people are native to it, they've owned crypto, they've explored that space. But then there's the realistic conversation of who is our audience, who is the demographic that we're targeting, who is the fans that are going to purchase this product. So for Devontae, for example, we knew that the majority of the sneaker buyers were not going to be Web3 native. And so we did two things. One, we offered credit card accessibility, as Alex just mentioned. And so, things like Magic Link or Paper can spin up wallets for those consumers, and then they can redeem them. And the beautiful thing about that was we had the watch party, so we got to have these conversations one-on-one with our customers, and 80% of I'll call it sub 100 people who showed up said it was their first NFT. And for us, that was super special, right? Like that insight, where like 80% of the people is their first NFT, like that means we did our job because we onboarded people and we showed them the positive side of NFTs. Yeah. And so for us, that was really cool. The other side is like for the Web3 native, like we went down to NFT Philly, which is a great organized group. They host these events. And so I got to go down there and just speak to that audience and be like, hey, we're doing something really different and really interesting. This is around your guys' ecosystem. You guys shout "Go Birds" every 5 seconds. You might want to look into this. And they did. And so that was really special. And then, to the second question, which was like onboarding more people, right? Now it depends on the conversation. It can be a sneaker first sell with X, Y, and Z perks or utility behind it. And then you also have to redeem the digital collectible or the NFT as your proof of ownership to get into these events or whatever it is. So there's ways to navigate that conversation to make everybody feel comfortable and confident versus like the negative stigma that you'll hear on headlines.
Yeah, and that's a great point on so many levels. Again, another common denominator, DeFi, fashion Web3, is educating the populace, right? Educating them for mass adoption. And I want to just harken back briefly to a panel that Gregory Molinar was on earlier. He mentioned that he's launched an education initiative in Fall River, I believe, and that he's tapped both of your companies to work with that population in educating them as far as blockchain is concerned, which I think is amazing, to get younger people infused into this. So can you elaborate on?
The one thing I'll say is I'm going to steal this from Gary Vee. I don't know if people know Gary Vee or know his NFT Project V friends or whatever. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a Gary Vee fanatic. And so regardless, but he has this thought process behind what Taylor Swift does really well. And she scales the unscalable, right? And what that means is she'll show up to somebody's birthday party or a wedding. Yes, she'll get a paycheck, but all 300 people at that wedding are going to remember that night for the rest of their fucking lives and go tell 1,000 people throughout their lifetime of how awesome Taylor Swift was. Yeah. What we think is really special in doing these grassroots things, whether it's Greg put on an awesome fashion show down in Fall River, we're able to offer up the sneakers for that, doing these grassroots things, talking to high schools, talking to these things. These people are going to remember that experience. And so when you can do those one-to-one interactions, I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm not better than any one other person on this planet. And I think when you can scale the unscalable, you can build customers for a lifetime. And that's why I think that we're going to be around forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, off of that, I think that brands using NFTs is kind of the perfect example of the classic do things that don't scale, like building one-to-one relationships with community members and making them super fans. It works in the end.
Yeah. Any other questions at this point? Oh, yeah. Just while the mic's coming over, one of the illustrations, when people ask me about Web3, I use the illustration, it's absorption, right? You're being absorbed into the internet. And I think the perfect example of that human loyalty, absorption, being thrown into it, being fans of that athlete or the entertainer for life, huge. Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering, have you guys seen what Yuga Labs is doing with their 10KTF project, where they're basically pulling in NFT collections? A lot of them are spin-offs of some of the Yuga Labs and Bored Apes and Gutter Cats and Punks and all that, but layering in, like, they're actually creating assets for different metaverses that have, their NFT pulled in onto like a backpack or a pair of sneakers or all those different things. I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that, if that kind of plays into some of your future plans.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that I think most apparel brands in the NFT space are looking at, is getting into more games, getting more brand recognition in those games, whether it's literally like representations of their NFTs they've dropped in those games or just their traditional IP branding and logos into games, whether that's metaverses, Web3 native games, or traditional games. Yeah.
And we, from our perspective, we are working diligently to be in digital environments as well with our sneakers. So if you do own one of the sneakers or like the NFT, it can be, in Decentraland, it can be in Roblox. We are working diligently with those platforms and trying to make sure that we aren't dismissing that. I mean, I think ultimately, like, there's so many different complexities and different olive branches to all of this, right? There's the metaverse, there's the NFTs, there's the crypto, there's the blockchain itself. I think we all don't want to dismiss one another. We all want to lift each other up. So, like, we wouldn't be doing our job diligently if we weren't looking at it. These things just take time. I think people thought they were a lot faster to integrate into these digital environments. They're not. There are some hurdles, but I would say confidently in the next, short term, you'll be able to wear your Endstate sneakers in digital environments.
It's very difficult to build standards around, like, across different gaming environments. I mean, there are services like Ready Player Me who try to make like interoperable avatars where you can make it with them, and then they handle implementing it into different game environments. But it's definitely a challenge. Yeah.
So with 10 seconds left, and thank you, Ian, for making the clock so big. It's very intimidating. But real quick, thanks so much, guys. This has been such a learning experience for me. I appreciate you letting me share the stage.
Thanks for the questions. That was awesome.
Thanks, guys.